Next on Inside the SCCA, one of the first families of autocross. On this episode of Inside the SCCA, we begin our month-long tribute to the women who are such a big part of the SCCA. Someone who has been to every solo nationals, Dee Schweikle. Dee, how are you?
Wonderful.
Well, welcome to the show. Thank you for being with us. So, a little bit of background for the people at home. Every year, the SCCA Women on Track initiative, starting last year, honors 31 ladies in the month of March. March is Women History Month. So they utilize the month of March to highlight and honor 31 ladies who are instrumental in making the SCCA what it is. And one of the people that they're honoring this year is Dee. Congratulations. Let's start with that.
Thank you very much.
Did you know you were going to be honored?
No, yeah, I guess I was.
And when you found out that you were going to be one of the honorees, what were your thoughts?
My friend Velma recommended me.
Blame it on Velma, right? I said blame it on Velma, right?
Right. You'll blame it on Velma.
There you go. There you go. So I start these podcasts every time the same way. I ask some questions, and the first question I always ask is, how did you get mixed up in this crazy sport that we all love?
Because I wanted to meet some people, and I happened to meet people that were in the Central Kentucky region of the Sports Car Club of America, and I met my husband there, and I got introduced to autocrossing.
So now, in what year was that about?
It was 1965, I think.
Okay. So did you get involved with the club before a meeting, George, or after?
I met him kind of in the club.
Okay. So who was responsible for getting you to the club in the first place? Because usually back in the day, it was the other way around. The husband or the boyfriend would be in the club first, and then the girlfriend or the wife would follow along or would come along. How did you get involved with the club in the first place?
A friend of ours, a mutual friend, introduced us. I was working at the University of Kentucky at the College of Dentistry. One of the dental students was into cars, and he introduced George and me.
Got it. And once you guys met, was it through autocrossing, or were you guys doing other stuff in the club and then found autocrossing?
Kind of the social aspects of it first, and then I've always liked cars, so I thought it would be fun to do.
So we talk about these days how difficult it is for women to get involved in motorsports, and things are a lot more, I would say, accepting these days maybe than they were back in the 60s and early 70s. How was it for you when you were getting involved?
There were a few other women. Yeah. And they encouraged me.
Sure, sure. So were you immediately drawn to driving in autocross, or were you involved in kind of the behind the scenes stuff?
Um, I guess I was drawn more to actually participating in the autocross itself, driving the car.
Right, right. Now, I understand that you are in a very, very elite club. And I'm not talking about the SCCA. I'm talking about a group of people who have participated in every solo nationals that's ever happened. When you went to the first one, I guess that was 1973, right?
Correct.
That was in St. Louis.
Right.
Describe what solo nationals was in 1973, because now it's 800, 900 drivers. It is a huge event. What was it like in 1973?
I can't remember how many people were there, but it was probably only a couple hundred.
Okay.
The course was on a racetrack, and we started at one spot and drove around to the other side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Somebody had a stopwatch at one end and said, go into the something to someone on the other side, and he stopped the clock that way.
So the start and the finish were not the exact same location?
No.
So did they have like a radio that would tell the person at the finish when to start the stopwatch?
Yeah, right.
Not quite as technical as it is today, was it?
Oh, hardly.
So was it a big deal in 1973 solo nationals, or was it kind of like, kind of just another event?
Kind of like, well, it was a big deal because it was the first time,
right?
But it nowhere near as sophisticated as it is now.
Sure. What were you driving in 1973?
I was driving Georgia's Alpha.
Okay. And is that the car you still drive today?
No, we've been through several Alphas.
Okay. So what was the reason for going to the newer Alphas or the different Alphas? Was it because you just had a newer model that was faster or more exciting? How was the progression from that first Alpha to where you are today?
Oh, just wanting newer ones, and I guess more sophisticated. But
sure. So how many Alphas have you all gone through? I don't use the word gone through, but what which Alpha number are you on now?
Oh, I need my coach to tell me.
So this is
what?
17.
17 Alphas?
Wow. No. What was the first one?
What was the first one, George?
You want some help here? I drove them before Dee came along, and the one that we both drove in was a 1971 Spider.
Okay.
And the reason we got rid of it was that it got rusty, and we found a later one that we still have.
Yeah, I can imagine. I grew up in Chicago and Wisconsin, so a Midwest Alpha probably did have some rust. I get it. And then what Alpha are you driving today?
Well, we have the 1976 autocross car, and we have a 1991, just a daily driver, street driver, my retirement cruiser.
Okay, your retirement cruiser. I love it. All right, so let's take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Women on Track and the initiative and why it's important what we're doing in this month of March. We'll do that next on Inside the SCCA. Stay with us. Decades of sports car racing success comes from Goodyear Racing Tires' dedication to grassroots motorsports. Too many trophies and championships to count, and a commitment to continuing that tradition fuels continued tire development. From the professional levels of motorsports to the pinnacle of amateur racing in the SCCA, Goodyear Racing Tires are made for winning trophies. Follow @RaceGoodyear on Facebook or scan the QR code. Goodyear Racing is more driven.
Sentinel by Candelaria Racing Products is a comprehensive motorsports video system, incorporating live streaming, local recording, picture-in-picture, flag status, leaderboards, data overlays, and more. Perfect for endurance racing, sprint racing, and HPDE, Sentinel includes everything you need to get started. With the ability to control the live feed from the cloud, and GPS Auto Start will never miss an on-track moment. What are you waiting for? Get your Sentinel today.
And we're back on Inside the SCCA. My guest, Dee Schweikle, one of our, this year's first honoree for the SCCA Women on Track initiative. And what do they call the group of people, Dee, who have been at every solo nationals? There's a term for it, right?
100%ers.
100%ers. I love that. I love that. So this is going to be coming up this year, the 50th Solo Nationals. So you've done 49 of them.
Right.
So what's your best finish at Solo Nationals?
I was first at the first national, and then first at one in Wichita.
Okay. I knew the answer. I just wanted to hear you tell me. So you have 2 national titles?
3.
3.
3.
Okay. And you go back today and compete. I know I'm not allowed to ask a lady their age. But you go back and compete this year now. What do the younger ladies talk to you about when you talk to them at a solo or an autocross?
I guess I don't talk to them that much.
Okay, because you're kind of a legend.
The class is usually little, and we're going so fast that staying on schedule and everything. And I share in the last few years, I've shared the car with another woman, so we just kind of jump back and forth.
Sure. So we're honoring the Women on Track honorees this year. And my goal with the podcast is to get as many of the 31 ladies who are being honored on a podcast in the month of March. I'm not quite sure I'm going to get everybody because that's a logistical challenge because everyone has lives and things to do. And it's March, and in a lot of parts of the country, we're actually racing. So I don't know if I'm going to get all 31, but rest assured I'm going to try. But when you started, there was no Women on Track initiative. We have this today, and I'm just curious what your thoughts are on the efforts that the club is making to help women, first of all, get recognized for the efforts that they put in. I've been involved on the road racing side for a long time, and I don't think road races would happen without all of the women who volunteer to help to make them happen. But what are your thoughts on the Women on Track initiative and what they're doing?
Oh, I think it's a great idea, and it gives the women a chance to get together and share what we're doing, and I haven't helped with much of the initiatives, but I'm always willing to help.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Do you think something like this would have been helpful to you when you were first starting out?
Oh, I don't think I even would have thought about it.
Sure.
There, it was so different 50 years ago.
How so?
Well, it was just so much more low key and not as organized, and um, the emphasis was mainly on having fun, I think, and maybe not so much on the trophies and all of the extra stuff.
Was the club for you welcoming back in the day?
Oh, it was very welcoming.
That's pretty amazing considering where the world was for women back in the 60s and 70s, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do you think, what would you attribute that to? Because we've all heard the stories of how difficult it was for women to get an equal shot and to be involved in sports with guys, and Title IX and all of that kind of stuff came out of the 70s. What would you attribute the fact that the club was so welcoming to you back then in a time when other types of activities weren't quite as welcoming?
Well, it was Kentucky to begin with, and the Kentuckians are real friendly, and they like to share with friends, and it was a small group, and so there were I don't know how many were in the club in those early years, but probably only 20 or 25.
Sure. And over time, did that change at all? As far as did you see more women come over time and start to participate? How many women were at that first solo nationals, do you think?
Oh gosh. Well, I know Susan Anderson was.
Right.
And there were 3 or 4.
Okay.
Yeah. I think there were some from the West Coast. Gosh, I need a list.
So I always tell people, because I've been in the club not as long as you have. I think I've been involved for about 35 years, and you don't do anything for 35 years or 49 going on 50 years at solo nationals like you are if the people aren't good people, right? We like cars, we like to go fast, we like all of that, but if it wasn't a great group of people to hang out with, we wouldn't do it, would we?
Of course not. Yeah. We go. I go as much for the people as the competition.
Absolutely. So when you strap in the car, though, because you seem like everyone's favorite grandma. You seem like the person who, if I didn't know you race cars, you'd be the person who'd be making biscuits or making cornbread and baking and all that other fun stuff. When you get to solo, though, and put on the helmet, are you a different person with the helmet on?
Well, I try to be more competitive, but I've always done it more for the fun of it and being with the people than winning trophies and stuff.
All right, so I think, well, actually, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take a break and take our last break here. And when I come back, I'm going to ask you a favor. Okay?
Okay.
Because you've got some experience, and I think you are the right person for me to ask this of, okay? So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the 50th Solo National. Stay with us. Vintage Racers for Rescues. Racers rescuing dogs and cats from high-kill rural shelters and high-risk situations. Virginia and North Carolina have the third highest euthanasia rate in the U.S., and Vintage Racers for Rescues founders Robin and Dave Handy decided to do something about it. Vintage Racers for Rescues is a 501c3 charity that saves between 300 and 400 animals every year, nursing them back to health, finding foster homes, and eventually forever homes. VintageRacersForRescues.com. Use the QR code to find them on the web or to make a donation.
Corgi Sport is your one-stop shop for new and used mini parts and accessories. Whether it's driven on the street or on the racetrack, we have everything you need. From the small interior parts all the way to used and rebuilt motors. And with our sponsorship of the GPM race team, who travel to more than 30 tracks east of the Mississippi, we have a built-in delivery system that can save money on delivering large parts. Our line of Corgi Sport apparel celebrates the special bond between mini owners and their dogs. Mention this ad for a 10% discount at corgisport.com.
Racing for Heroes is proud to be a partner of Inside the SCCA. RFH is a nonprofit devoted to helping veterans suffering from the seen and unseen wounds of war through racing and our range of programs. RFH's programs include health and wellness, motorsports therapy, community outreach, education, and employment. Visit racingforheroes.org to learn more and find out how you can help. Cruise Associates is honored to have sponsored this message. All right, we are back on Inside the SCCA. I'm Brian Belansky. My guest is a 100%er, Dee Schweikle, one of the handful of people. I think it's 8 people, Dee. Does that number sound right to you or something close to that?
7 or 8, yeah.
Yeah. And when I say 8 people, these are the 100%ers. That's what they're called. They're folks who have been to every Solo Nationals since 1973, which would mean every single Solo Nationals, hence the name 100%. All right, so Dee, I'm going to try this year. The goal is for me to come and do my podcast from Solo Nationals this year. We did the same thing last year at the runoffs and had a ton of fun. And since it's the 50th Solo Nationals, we've been talking about going out to Lincoln to do the Solo Nationals. And I've said to myself, if I'm going to go to Lincoln, I might as well compete my first Solo Nationals. I haven't done solo literally since 1989. I haven't been at a single solo. I've been to a solo, but I haven't driven a solo since 1989. So I'm going to do a couple out here in California this summer so I don't make a complete fool of myself. But when I get to Lincoln, I need a mentor. And I'm wondering if you would be my mentor.
Oh, I could try.
I would love that. Because I don't think there's anybody out there who's got more experience than you, right? At least not at Solo Nationals. So if you're willing, I would love to have you show me the ropes and maybe do a course walk with me and kind of get me pointing in the right direction. How's that sound?
I'll be happy to.
Okay. And then the second most important thing about Solo Nationals, I need someone to introduce me to all the cool people. So can you do that too?
Introduce you to
all the fun people.
Fun people? I'll work on it.
I bet that would be great. So if we have someone watching today who is a lady and on the fence about coming to a solo, tell them why they should give it a shot.
Well, it's a great way to meet people, and it's fun. Get you outdoors. During COVID, that was
vintage
nice because we could be socially distanced outside, and I like being outdoors. And in this part of the country, it's really pretty.
That's
we go
great.
out and drive around a lot.
So let me ask you one other question. This one's really important. I'm thinking about bringing my wife out and having her do it as well. I should not be her coach, right?
I don't know. George was my coach.
Okay. And it worked out?
It worked out. We've made it through 50 years together.
That's great. I've been told that it's not good for spouses to be coaches of their spouses. So,
Well, no, I wouldn't say that was true for us.
okay, great.
George was a good coach.
Well, he must be. You got 3 national championships out of it. So how much coaching did you give to George? That's the most important question.
I don't think I give too much coaching to him.
Tell him about the purse.
What's that?
Tell him about the purse.
The purse. What's the purse?
Oh, if I beat him, he has to carry my purse.
Oh, that's fantastic. And how many times has George carried your purse?
A few times.
And I bet you he does it proudly. All right. So, Dee, I want to thank you. I really appreciate it. It's been a ton of fun getting to know you a little bit. And there's a reason why you are the first honoree this year for SCCA's Women on Track. It's really fantastic to see someone who's put in so much time to the club and help folks along the way. Had a great time doing it, it sounds like. And there's some hardware on the mantle for your efforts as well. And congratulations on 49 years at the runoffs. How many more years do you want to do this?
Oh, as long as I can still move.
There you go. I correct myself. 49 years at Solo Nationals. So, all right, Dee Schweikle, thank you so much for joining us today on the show. I really appreciate it. We're going to do more with the Women on Track honorees throughout the month of March, so tune in for that. This is another episode of Inside the SCCA. If you've liked what you heard, subscribe to the Racing Wire Podcast Network and the Racing Network on YouTube so you won't miss any episodes. It would also be great if you leave a comment, especially if it's a good one. You can follow us on social media to find out who our next guest is and leave a question. On Twitter, it's @RacingWireNet. There's a new Inside the SCCA every week. I'm Brian Polanski. Have a fantastic weekend and go play with cars.
Hi, I'm Kelton Jago, and this is Inside the SCCA.
Inside the SCCA is a presentation of the Racing Wire Podcast Network and Rule 15 Productions. This podcast is not affiliated with, endorsed, or sponsored by the Sports
Stay
Car
with me
Club
for a
of
minute.
America.
Don't go anywhere.
The views expressed within are those of the host and our guests, and not that of the SCCA.